Have you ever wondered how we get to really know a writer? Not just through their work, but through their voice, memories, even silences? Well, that's exactly what two pairs of researchers set out to discover through long, thoughtful interviews with one of the Philippines' first prominent Filipino poets, Angela Manalang Gloria. In this video, we compare two oral history projects. They both tell her story, but in two different ways. The first set of researchers are Edilberto Alegre and Doreen Fernandez. Their interview focused on Manalang Gloria's life, how it shaped her poetry, and even the controversies behind her most famous pieces. They believe the poet's personal experiences, like relationships, education, even censorship, must influence their writing. Then there's Edna Manlapas Zapanta and Marjorie Ivasco. Their approach? A little more meta. They didn't just ask, what happened? They also asked, what don't we know? What might even the poet be unaware of? They even factored in their own role as researchers. As Sir Efmer Agustin put it in our interview,
As readers, uh, the way we interpret texts can also be dependent on what we know about this text, the writer, for example. So, the reception, how we accept or not accept the content, the intention, and certain pieces may be dependent on what we know of the background of these pieces. Uh, so, bagan of the two approaches, what I can say is, una, they seem to represent two different points in research history, the development of research. One, at distant tunuhay, which kana, the other is may na self-reflexiveness na. We think this is she, but at the same time, we think this is us. And we think this is what the others think of not only her, but of us as well. So that certain kind of self-awareness and of the researcher's awareness of itself na even this output, this research can also be researched on what the intentions, what are silenced, what are emphasized.
now let's talk style. Alegre and Fernandez were more conversational, but focused. They quoted Angela's poems, asked about her inspirations, and placed her experiences in their historical context. For instance, they asked about her rejection from the Commonwealth Prize because her poems like Querida were considered too daring. On the flip side, Manlapas and Evasco structured their interviews to highlight layers of identity. They even asked questions about what Manalang Gloria thought she knew versus what might have been subconscious. Sir Efmer actually pointed this out when we asked him which approach worked better.
Well, it depends on the purpose. For example, because even approaches to biography are multifarious. There's not one. For example, in it seems like the first one, Alegre and Fernandez, they are trying to go the personal approach to the something, and uh, in a way that is helpful because uh, as certain people would say, it cannot be denied that personal experiences of writers, whether they are creative writers, journalists, whatever, or artists in general, their personal lives have certain effects on what they do. So, in a way, that is an approach that has gained a certain kind of following in the literary world. So, okay ito nga approach. On the other hand, and usa, oo, it's almost the same, pero now they sort of broadened their reach that the first pair, Alega and Fernandez, they are more on what Angela Manalang Gloria more or less knows about herself. Na, for example, si Manalang Gloria ba to ang ito sa Berlinia Moreno and Batut Maker. is this koan, how is this related to your personal experience? Maybe this space is about your marriage something or about the children or something like that. But the problem with that approach, I'm not saying it's bad. Like I said, it is a decent kind of approach and it has its own following. Pero the problem with that is that it seems like you're saying every work has a one-to-one correspondence to the experience and thoughts of the writer. And it is not always true because, for example, ako as a writer, there are many things that I would like to write, and I have written a few things already. Yeah. I know personally do not have anything to do with my own personality. For example, I have these certain stories that they want to break free and finally be born into paper and become hopefully published. Pero I am thinking on the other hand, kung gumawas ini for example yung akong writing and people who know me would read this, they would make "Uy, so that nga yan na." It's not really about me. One of my favorite singers, if not my favorite singer, is Shakira. And during her early career, she said in an interview na songs ko no come kumi. Some are craving to be born, to be written, because they are insistent in being born. And she has no other way but to give birth to them. Kaya sabi niya, what do I do? Shall I abort them? Uh, and in a way, later on, I will say, hala, and in some way, the same thing happens to me. Some stories will say, hey, isurat apo. And
So, what did they actually discover about Manalang Gloria? Alegre and Fernandez uncovered the tension between tradition and rebellion. Manalang Gloria disliked modern poetry, wrote in longhand, and challenged social norms, especially about women and sexuality. Manlapas and Evasco, on the other hand, framed her story alongside other women poets. They weren't just preserving her words, they were documenting how being a woman affected her journey as a poet. These interviews aren't just old conversations, they're oral histories, preserved voices that reveal not just what someone said, but how they said it. Both interviews respected Angela's voice, her tone, her pauses, her word choices. Alegre and Fernandez called it preserving voice prints. In their interview, Manlapas and Evasco let pauses, gaps, and contradictions remain in the text because those, too, tell a story. And this is key to writing literary bibliographies, letting the subject shine through, recording raw and unfiltered. So you might be wondering, which approach is better? Well, it isn't really about which is better, but what you intend to look for. Want to understand an author as she sees herself? Go with Allegra and Fernandez's process. Want to understand an author in a wider cultural lens? Manlapas and Evasco's method might work for you. As Sir Efmer said,
well, it may seem like I would suggest the second one is better, but not necessarily. It depends on the intention, really, generally. But what I could say about the two is that they more or less complement one another. Uh, one may provide you with information that the other may elide over, or at least they're gonna elide over kay maybe there's an intention to elide over, but more of something that the other overlooked intentionally or unintentionally.
while their measures of probing Angela about her life and her work, how her life influenced her work, or how others think her work was shaped, differed in approaches, in the end, both interviews gave us something valuable. Not just an author's story, but a deeper way to read, write, and remember. That in listening closely, not only to what is said, but to how it is said, and even to what is unsaid, we begin to understand the fuller picture of a writer's world. And in preserving voices like Angela Manalang Gloria's, we honor not just her work, but the life, silence, and strength behind them.